Alright, testing. Let's see how well this works. Uh-oh. Is it not working? What's going on here? Let's see if this is actually streaming. Let's see. What do we got here? A lot of mites. These are mainly Pauropods. Kind of look like little tanks. That looks okay in the video. What else we got? We got lots of dirt. A little fly larva of some sort. There's going to be a lot of those. Ah, here we go. It's a nice little centipede. This one's a juvenile though, it doesn't have enough legs as the adult. It's a stone centipede. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, about a dozen or so legs. These should have 15 legs as an adult. Let's see. I know there's a pauropod in here somewhere. More dirt and detritus. This one's been in the funnel for about, let's see, when did I collect this? I think last Friday, so about a week now. So it's mostly exhausted of the big stuff. Oh, I see some antenna. Yeah, oh, nice, there we go. Oh, this is a weird one. So let me clean them off a bit here. Let me know if you can hear me all right. This is just sort of a relaxed, let's see if we can test this and actually see things with the microscope kind of test. So if there's any weirdness, let me know. Yeah, this is, let's see if I can adjust the lighting a little bit. It's kind of high contrasty, unfortunately. Let's see. It's kind of dark. Let's zoom. How far can, that's as far as we can zoom out. Yeah, this is a really cool centipede. Let me see if I can kind of flatten the head down. You can see why it's pretty neat. So we're looking at the underside of the head right now. I'll move them out from the side of the dish. That'll probably be a big help, actually. Let's kind of put them facing up there. Little smiley guy. So I'll put a cover slip on them. That'll kind of hold them down, flatten them out a little bit. But it might be too much reflections. We'll see. Bear with me here. Push down on that. There we go. You can see it a little bit better. So let me write that name down, show you what we're currently looking at. This is Pytobius zinus, stone centipede. The video stuttering. Yeah, It's telling me that the YouTube isn't receiving enough video to be smooth. I think that's just because we're looking at through a microscope, and so the picture isn't changing a lot, and that's kind of messing with that. YouTube doesn't really know what to do with that. Let's change that to 18, see if it'll all show up. There we go. Alright, so this is a stone centipede, so called because you can often find them under stones, but they occur in a lot of places. So this particular one is cool. This species is in a genus that has representatives in both Western and Eastern North America, but so far this is the only one known where the male exhibits this really cool sexual dimorphism. And so what we're looking at, these are the forcipials, the venom jaws, so these are actually modified first leg pairs. And the males, they've been described as monstrous just because they're so big and kind of weird. So when we flatten them out, you can kind of see that. And the actual forcipial part here, you can see it comes up and there's a little clot at the end of this. And so the venom gland is actually within these two parts here. So it's just greatly enlarged compared to what you normally see, like in the females or something, where the head completely covers the jaws. But in these ones, you can see the jaws even poke out from the underside. So it's very squared off there. We don't know what those are used for. Oh, I hope this is still broadcasting video. We don't know what those are used for, but the females don't have it. And so this species was first described from females, and so this dimorphism wasn't known for a little while, and just pretty wild. Let me try to flip them over, show you what it looks like from the top there. Okay, good. That's a little lighting slightly better, but not a ton. Oh, geez. Alright, so let's flatten them out again. Look at the top of the head there. Unfortunately, it's showing up as pretty dark, but at least here you can see the body's mainly brown. The legs are kind of this nice violet blue color. It actually makes them pretty easy to identify just with the naked eye based on what other species I have around me out here. But you can see those forcipials, those venom jaws, are really just sticking out a ton from around the head. And the females, you don't see those from above at all. So when you see such chunky jaws on a stone centipede, then it's going to be this species. And it occurs from I think Virginia is the furthest north it's been recorded, and it goes south to about Alabama or so. But, these aren't very well investigated, so it very well could be in other spots as well. So that's pretty cool. It's fun to see. And you can kind of see one of the defining features or one of the helpful characters for identifying these stone centipedes, is that you see the tergites here, these brown plates up top, and so kind of the back of the centipede. And sometimes some of the corners can be produced, so they'll look like these sharp projections on each side. But in this particular species, it doesn't have any of the corners of those tergites produced, so it rules out some of the other ones you might find. Another cool little bit of sexual dimorphism here that you see is these ultimate legs here. So these are leg pair 15, And 14 a little bit has this as well, but if you look, you can kind of see on the femur, so this section here that you're saying, you can kind of see it's got this shallow little sulcus or kind of, divot in the leg there. And that's something else that the adult male Pytobius zinus have, but the adult female doesn't. It's kind of inflated a little bit. So that's another good way to tell. And it's cool to see. You got these chunky boys just kind of running around in the leaf litter. And let me put a scale on here for you. These aren't huge centipedes. So each of those notches is a millimeter. I'd zoom out more, but this from the camera that I have, it literally will not zoom out anymore. The whole body here is about, barely, maybe like 9.5 millimeters. So barely even a centimeter, not even a centimeter long. One of our, kind of on the small range of the stone centipedes we have around here. But really cool to see. I've been sort of trying to get as many of these as possible to just kind of see, what variation there is in the jaws of those males and kind of put that together. So I'm definitely going to take him out of the sample and preserve him in his own vial. So I will take him, put him out into a separate dish here, and we'll see what else we can find. So we'll keep looking through some of this dirt. We got various tiny mites and springtails. Here's a springtail. There's some kind of mite, very light and pale. I can identify some mites, but not a ton of them. So we'll kind of skip over these. These little tank-looking things are the order Auropods, and there's so many of them. They make good little snacks for all the predators that are down in the leaf litter. Yeah, here's a bigger one here. Bigger is relative. This is still maybe like a millimeter and a half long. Let's see. As I said before, I've been running this in my Berlese funnel for about a week, so I've already pulled out a lot of the bigger stuff. So we're getting the things that are still in there. So, this litter's been pretty dry. It's just been in there for a while, and still stuff is dropping out. A lot of cases it's just mites, but some cases we're getting some nice big centipedes. I'm still searching around trying to find a cool pauropod that I saw. There's that juvenile centipede we saw earlier. Gonna leave that. Oh, there's a nice little spider. And looks like an adult. So this is a female. Let's see if we can zoom in. See if that'll show it very well. And so we can see on her abdomen there. See that circular area that kind of has those little sclerotized structures? That's the epigyne, and so that's what you see in the females. And so that's their sexual structures. Useful for species identification, but with these little spiders, I'm not very good at them, so I send them to other people if I need an ID. But you'll find a lot of these tiny, tiny spiders just from Berlese funnels that you wouldn't get any other way. Got a lot more mites there. You're going to see a lot of mites. Oh, and here's we'll look at this a little bit. This is a juvenile beetle here. So beetles being holometabolists, the adults and the larvae look very different. So often beetle larvae have a lot of these tiny hairs on them. They have some sclerotized jaws on them. You can see their little eyes, little stomata there. So this is what a baby click beetle looks like. Try to get, it's got these mites stuck on its butt layer. We'll see if we can remove those. There we go. I'll zoom in a little. It's got these interesting structures at the end of the body. Yeah, you can see those hairs very nicely there. Yeah. So it almost looks like a weird can opener or like a, little plastic tag you'd put around a bread bag to keep it from going stale or anything. You can see it's also got some other tubercles associated with it, kind of along the sides. Pretty weird, you know. I don't know, maybe it helps to shovel away some dirt, help it dig, because these things are just going to be down in the leaf litter and in the soil itself. No idea what genus it is, but it's at least a click beetle, the family Elateridae. Yeah, you get a lot of mites when we're going through these samples. You know, sometimes they're cool. I've been finding a neat little winter active family called the Tanopodidae, and don't run into them at any other times of the year. You know, it gets warm and you just start to see them disappear. So I just send them to my mite guy, and he likes those, so maybe he'll be able to use them someday. So I've got this big petri dish that I'm working with here, so I'm trying to methodically scan to make sure we're not missing anything. Oh, here's another aggregation of mites here. Flip that guy over. Yeah. Okay, here's a cooler mite. So this is one of the prostigs, the prostigmata, and these, kind of in my head, I classify these ones as just the mites that are actually sort of interesting. You know, the Aurobatida are fine, they can kind of look cool, but they all look pretty similar. The prostigs can look pretty different from one another, but often the ones that I notice most often are these sort of orange-red guys. So I think this is maybe a microtrombitid or trombioid or something. My friend Ray would be very cross at me for not remembering what it's called. But you can see those two, you know, red little dots. Those are the eyes. And it's got these big ol', I believe those are the pedipalps there. Kind of have an expansion at the end of them, kind of clavate. A lot of little hairs. I wonder if I can get those in focus for you. Yeah. And this is, this is turning out pretty good. Awesome. So you can see it's just like carpeted with these hairs, and so this is related to those velvet mites that you sometimes see walking through the leaf litter, or maybe you'll see it on a rock or something. And you know, when it gets up close, they're just kind of fuzzy. You know, if they were a little bit bigger, you know, cat-sized, you could definitely just kind of pet them. I could see people keeping these in their houses, and you know, they could just take care of any other little bugs that get in. Okay, so we got a delay on the screen. I wonder how long that is. All right, Nick, I'm going to say a time right now, and let me know when it gets to you. So it's currently my time, 9:34. So we'll see what kind of delay we're getting there. All right, so there was our cool mite that we saw. Glad to see one of those here. Let's see what else. More mites. These ones aren't quite so interesting, but you know, they're important in their own way. We won't begrudge them that. And that's a silly little springtail here. Let's see if I can get to that. There we go. Come on, flip over. This is very hard to do when I'm just looking at the screen rather than through the scope. But yeah, there's our little springtail, pudgy little guy. So it's cool to see those ones, you know, a little bit better than just the linear, pale ones that we're used to. More mites, more mites. Mites and springtails, mites and springtails. It's okay though, when we find that pauropod, it's going to just blow your mind. Mites, mites, mites. That's a nice big one. Another tanky Aurobatid there. They can withdraw their legs into their body pretty well too, so they just, sometimes they'll look completely spherical and just, you know, totally ready to rumble and tumble. Oh, there's a little caterpillar. It's a very young one. No idea what group that might be in, but if you had to guess, go for a Noctuity or a Rebity. They're just so common. And so, even so, I collected this last week, and it was relatively chilly out, but there's still going to be stuff living in the litter. You just have to know where to look, and you can still find your bugs. Oh, what do we got here? Is that a pupa? Try to, oops, keep pushing the dish away. Come on, flip over. Oh, yeah, it's a moth pupa. Okay, so it looks like there's a 2-minute delay. So that's interesting. We'll try to fix that in the future, maybe. But hey, at least it's not 5 minutes. All right. So here's a cool, if you've never really taken a close look at moth pupae before, now's your chance. So they'll overwinter in the litter and kind of wait until it gets warmer before coming out. And so, can't see too much on the abdomen there. But if you look up at the head and the thorax, then you're getting all the good stuff. So we can see the wings are protected here. And then you can, if I can flip it just right, you can get a good look at the head and all the other stuff. There we go. Try to push this up a little bit. There we go. So you can see all the legs just coming down through the middle between those wings. See some of the antennae at the top, and of course those eyes. And when they're in these pupae, they can kind of move around a little bit, try to get you to leave it alone, but they're going to be mostly immobile there. Nick, why are you up at 2:30? Get some sleep, man. I gotta find that Pauropod for you. Alright, that's enough of the moth larva. Go down this way. Oh, got another baby centipede here. Can't really identify these guys until they're adults and sometimes of a certain age, so we'll just leave them there for now. Oh, there's a little ant for all you ant heads out there. I've already removed a number of ants from this sample, so they'll stay in there. Well, that's cool. He's got these 2 little spines there. It's been a while since I identified ants, but I'll just say, I don't know, maybe the genus Timnothorax. I'm sure so. Some ant person will correct me eventually on that. Where are you hiding, Pauropods? I know you're in here. There's that ant again. Might be hiding at the edge. Unfortunately, there's some reflections. Let's move that around. No, so far nothing. Got a big old fly larvae here. Let's stop on that. Move him out to the center so we can actually see what's going on there. Yeah, so unfortunately I can't zoom out much more, but this big guy, oof. Let's see, is that a crane fly larva? I pulled some other crane flies out of here. Oops. You see, it's kind of gross looking. There's not too much going on there. It's just kind of lumpy. Nice little maggot. Alright, I think what I'm going to do, just do a quick speed run for Pauropods. So now I'm looking through the actual scope, so forgive me, it might look kind of weird on the screen for a little bit. This makes it much easier to actually examine the sample and find what I'm looking for. Shouldn't even be that hard. There's not a ton of stuff in here. Sometimes you'll get a Berlese and a bunch of dirt has been knocked in, and those are not... there he is. Not particularly fun to sort through. Alright, so I got 2 good stuff for you. I'll put out here in the middle so it's easy to find. Got a nice centipede, and finally that pauropod that I know I saw. Saw it with my naked eye last night when I looked at the sample cup. Now, whenever I find one, I always get greedy. And I'm like, oh, will there be a second one perhaps? But this particular sample has been just replete with pauropods. My cup overflows with pauropods from this one. I think this will be number 6 that I got. Alright, a quick look through the rest of it. I'm not seeing any more. So this is probably the only one. But that's okay. That's okay. Alright. So let's get that in focus. Here we go. Pauropods. Just a beautiful little Twinkie of the earth here. Let me try to get him flip him around a little bit for you. These are just super cool. So let me update this. So we're looking at Pauropods here. This might be my favorite pauropod just because it's pretty easy to identify the genus immediately, which is not particularly easy to do with most of the pauropods. So if you've never heard of a pauropod, they are myriapods like millipedes or centipedes, and they are the group that's most closely related to the millipedes. Let me see, try to adjust these light settings a little bit. They're really cool. If we zoom in on the antennae here, see if this will come through. So you can see the antennae, and they're actually split. So near the top of the screen there, you can see there's one branch, and then there's another branch below that. So you can see that distinct fork. And even on that second lower branch, you can see some other filaments kind of, if I'll stop moving around, coming off. And so these are useful for species ID, but to actually get there, you need to either put the sucker under a scanning electron microscope or a compound scope, which I do have, but I don't have it set up. But I'm trying to pull a bunch of these together so then I can look at them and try to ID them to species. And so you can see his little legs there. This guy's got, looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 legs. It seems to be pretty typical of the specimens I've been getting for this guy. Can't quite tell if it's a male or a female, but you can see the head up there. You know, it's got kind of a nice pointed head, almost beak-like, like a little bird, but much better than a bird, of course, because we love myriapods here. And then the real helpful feature for identifying this particular genus seems to be the anal plate, which is definitely much too small to see on here, so that'll be a compound scope day. And you can see it's got these little hairs. Those are coming off the dorsal side there, so I'll flip them over so you can see that. But they're quite large there, and those are often illustrated in the species accounts as well. So what I'm going to do is flip this guy over. We've been looking at his ventral side, kind of his belly up there. But they're quite beautiful on top. Let's see if I can get out of here. Mite, we're not talking about you. There we go. So you can see those plates now. This one kind of contorted a little bit. Let's see if I can get a good zoom going on this guy. But really cool tergites here. It looks even cooler under the compound scope, but it's almost like you know how shark's skin has those kind of like teeth-like platelets, what do they call them, denticles on it? These are kind of similar. And so, I can't see that super well. But it's very like rugose. It's almost like touching sandpaper if you touch the back of one of these. Very cool, and they have almost like these little starburst shapes on them. The published literature kind of illustrating those is just beautiful. They're just gorgeous. I just love seeing these guys. And you can kind of see, you know, the head's a little bit detaching underneath, and you know, he's almost cleared a little bit. You can't really see too many internal organs through there. That kind of happens a lot I've just got it in rubbing alcohol. And right there above the butt is going to be the anal plate. So I'll try to get some good images of that someday. But, you know, just You don't see these super often from Berleses, but they do show up just uncommonly. So it's always a treat to see these. So what I'm going to do now is just carefully remove them so I can transfer them to a vial. So that's number, I think, 6 from this sample, which I think my total collection only has maybe about a dozen Pauropods. So this is adding a lot more material that I can look at, which is just super. And then, we'll look at the centipede, and then I'll probably end there, try to figure out how this went and how I can improve it for next time. So this is another stone centipede that we're looking at now. Stone centipede. It's the genus Nampabius, which are kind of a pain in the butt to identify, really. Unfortunately, just because there's a number of species that aren't particularly well described, but the species I get around here in Blacksburg, Virginia, kind of out in western Virginia here, oftentimes they're just this nice pale yellow color, and I'll try to put a scale near there, and not very large at all. We can fit the whole thing on there. So those tick marks are millimeters, so that's 1, 2, about 3 millimeters long for this one, so not particularly behemoths of the litter there, but pretty common if you're doing Berleses. These are harder to collect by hand just because they're very small, and so you're apt to miss them. But they've got 20 antennomeres on there, those antennal segments. Can't quite see it very well, but the prosternal teeth on their forcipules are 2 plus 2. They just have 2 of those teeth. Pretty common for a number of our stone centipedes. And then they're also sexually dimorphic. This one's a female, so we won't be able to see that, but I will zoom in on her gonopods here. Give me a second to show that well. There we go. And so you can see at the base of the gonopods, see if I can get my pin in there. No, I think that's going to be too low. Okay, kind of down here, you see 2 sclerotized structures. So those are 2 little spurs at the base